3, 2, 1, sync. Okay. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the Wes Huff Billy Carson debate featuring moderator Mark. Let me just get moderator Mark right out of the way. He's the worst moderator I have ever seen in any debate, period, including debates I have been in where these are back in the blood sports days where the host would be purposely antagonistic to both sides to get people going. Okay, this is worse than even that. This is terrible. He should never host a debate again, period. He interrupts too much, and what he talks about is irrelevant to the topic. So he is not a good host. I'm pretty sure his channel is more popular than mine because his channel is probably not being throttled or anything like that, but he does not belong on the debate stage. That doesn't mean that his channel might not be interesting. It could be a great channel, but he is not a debate host. Let's get to Billy Carson, and then we'll finish with Wesley Huff, and then we'll get into it. This is going to be a slightly different debate review than I normally do. I normally do debate reviews, topic by topic, and I go through the entire debate. The entire debate is this. Billy Carson makes a statement, and Will Huff then says, well, where's your proof for that? He then provides his proof text, and then Huff says, well, that's not in that text. He goes, okay, well, I meant this text. And then he goes, okay, well, that text has actually, it's illegitimate. We all know it's a forgery. He goes, well, you don't know that it's a forgery because how do I know that your stuff's not a forgery? And he never gets to that point because once he starts going there, Mark interrupts. And he interrupts for long stretches of time. So this is not a formal debate, even though it's a much needed debate. That's the overall debate altogether. It's mostly Mark talking, which is very unfortunate. The moderator should not talk that much during a debate. But Billy Carson has some misunderstandings of some of my favorite pieces of literature in human history. Every book that I have up here, including the ones down here, are books that he completely misunderstands, completely gets the events wrong, but he somehow gets all the names of all the characters correct. What I can think, the only thing that I can think here is that he had, because it looked like he was looking down, that he had summaries already set up on the host, on the moderator's computer, because he kept looking down. If that wasn't the case, then he somehow memorized all the character names in all these different books without actually having ever read any of these books. So it was embarrassing and humiliating to watch. It was not good. He describes the different gods as coming from different planets. He describes alien invasions. He describes a disbelief in demonology and angelology, but also a discrediting of the Christian understanding of God, specifically when it comes to slavery and the treatment of women, which might sound, oh, he's an intellectual and he's like an atheist, secular scholar. You know, he's a YouTuber atheist, right? No. He believes in wackadoo stuff that most secularists, most skeptics would poo-poo on very heavily, and would shut down in any conversation, or they'd let you go just say, "Oh, you look crazy." So let's move on to Wes. Wes is someone who I have disagreed with many times over YouTube. I like him personally. He seems very charming, and he does seem well studied. But his conclusions and his willingness to suppress or obfuscate in favor of the Bible because he has a biblical literalist bias is unfortunate because he's definitely well learned. He's very learned. Um, I think he's working on his doctorate. I don't know Kip or any of the other big guys who watch my channel. If you know if he's legitimate in the field, what the opinion is of the field, please share that in this comment, in a comment on this video, if you ever watch this, of course. I But that being said, West completely destroyed every argument and every claim that Billy had. Billy misinterpreted or misspoke, even though he made videos on it that are very popular. He Codex Sinaiticus, he ends up calling it the Sinaiticus Bible or the Cyanide Bible, whatever. Then he says, "Oh no, it's actually it's the uh, it's the Gospel of Barnabas," which there are other Barnabas stuff out there. So exactly which one he really means, who knows? But West picked one and just attacked that one. Then he gets into the Epic of Gilgamesh, and he gets into the Atar Hasis, and he gets to the Enuma Elish. As you can see, they're up here. And he starts talking about original languages, which he really shouldn't talk of. That's why I have these down here. So that's in Hebrew. These two are in Koine Greek. So here's where we're going to break with the traditional format, because this is more of a warning to people who are unprepared to do debate or interactions online about the Bible. And TikTok has become the hotspot. YouTube is no longer the hotspot for this topic. It's just a place where I'm comfortable, so it's why I do these videos here. I probably should be doing stuff on other platforms as well. I like YouTube. I'm staying with YouTube for as long as I can. You need to have at least read the Bible to talk about the Bible. I don't mean in the original languages. I don't mean any of that kind of stuff. I'm not someone who's a credentialist. I don't think you need every credential in the world to have an opinion. I think all you need is information. But you have to have the proper information. Now, I picked a specific Bible here. I know it's a controversial pick, but it's the Bible that I prefer. It's my second favorite Bible. My first favorite Bible being the CTS New Catholic Bible, which is out of print. And the New Catholic Bible is now a different translation, I believe, from India. And it's not a translation that I recommend. It's basically a retranslation. The one that I prefer is all they did is they changed some of the names of God to God and Lord, because they didn't want to do the actual name of God. Anyway, they didn't want to put God's name in Hebrew on there. So that is my favorite Bible, but it's out of print, so it doesn't matter. So this is my favorite Bible that's currently in print, and it is the New American Bible. It is a Catholic Bible, yes, and it includes the Deuterocanonical books in their proper place, not cut off in the middle or at the end in the appendix. And this is my favorite Bible translation. It's my favorite Bible to read. I use it all the time. I use it in my daily readings. I use it when I do my secret sermons. I use this one. So, but maybe you don't like Catholics. That's fine. There are two study Bibles that I would recommend you read if you're going to get involved in this stuff. Now, my personal favorite study Bible is the Catholic Study Bible. Let's not worry about that. There are two other Bibles that are my top two. I have three favorite study Bibles. I have many favorite study Bibles. Just to let you know, I have over 12 translations of the Bible, and I've read through about 7 of them. And I have maybe about 20 study Bibles. I wish I was joking. Anyway, the SBL Study Bible is really great. It's using the current translation, the NRSV-UE. It's current academia. This is great. But I would actually recommend this one instead. And I hear a rumor from some of the scholars that there's going to be a 6th edition. You better believe I'm buying this day one. The 3rd edition of this was the first study Bible I ever went all the way through front to back. Not the first Bible I read front to back, but the first study Bible I read front to back. It is a amazing study Bible and will give you the proper information that you need. But that's only if you're going to be debating the Bible. Like if you just want to debate Bible topics and you want to know what the general consensus is, you need to have read the Bible at least once, and you need to have gone through at least one comprehensive study Bible. Like I said, another study Bible I would recommend is the Oxford's Catholic Study Bible. There's also the ESV Study Bible from Crossway. That one is really, really great. It's really complex. It has a lot of ideas. It has a lot of Calvinist leanings, but if you're okay with that, it has a lot of good stuff. The Word on Fire Study Bible series, I think, is excellent. It's very expensive. That's the only reason I'm not recommending it. And then there is from IVP Publishing, there are these basically church father commentaries that are put in order in each book. This is a very expensive series. It's not one I recommend for the average person, but if you really want to get a comprehensive idea of what's going on in the Bible and just see what the earliest Christians and Christians of most popular note said about these things and opinions were on these things, that is the Bible to read, because you'll understand how the early church understood the Bible. And you'll see how much modern historical biblical criticism is in line with actually ancient biblical theology. So that might not be very comfortable for some scholars that are watching this to hear, but it's true. So that's very good. The IVP Early Church Father series is great. It gives you the Bible passage up on top, and then gives you like 6, 7, 8 different church fathers' comments about every single verse going through the entire Bible. It's great. I love it. I have it for the New Testament. I'm pretty sure you can get it for the Old Testament. I don't know. I just have the New Testament stuff for the IVP. But there's a ancient church fathers Bible that uses the IVP stuff, and it has stuff from the Old Testament as well. So I'm sure you can get the Old Testament stuff as well. I also have 350 church father, I'm going to say books, but they're writings in a library in my room, a library in my house, and I'm still reading through that. I started reading the church fathers 7 years ago. It seems like a never-ending project. I tried to get through 350 of those books this year. I did not get that far. Okay, so now let's move on, because we got to really talk about this. So when speaking about the creation myths of ancient Mesopotamia, you have to understand that it's a different context. It's not a Christian context. And when you read through it the first time, you're going to see parallels with Christian writings. These are parallels. They're not direct copies. So Billy Carson said something that I've seen some atheists say and some mythicists say, which is, the Bible directly copied. No. Maybe you can find a verse. Maybe you can find a word. But the story of Genesis is unique. It's not the exact same story as the other creation myths. It is a polemic. It is a philosophical polemic against. It is a counter-apologetic, as some people might call it. But for those in the Catholic world, we call it a polemic, and it's a polemic against the other religions. In fact, there are more books than these that I've read, but I have them in digital. And when you read these ancient texts, these ancient Mesopotamian and Middle Eastern and Mediterranean texts, you see that the Genesis narrative is arguing against the claims and the conclusions of these other texts. They're not just copying, they're countering. They're arguing against these conclusions. This is not taking place on other planets. The earth is the dead body of a god. The mountains are like the bones and the the scale and different stuff, like the back of a specific god. So you get all this stuff, and Baal's the hero in one tell, one version of the tell. Marduk's the hero in another version of the tell. Gilgamesh is a great hero in another version of the tell. The Atar Hasis, you're going to have parallels with Moses. Sorry. You're going to have parallels with Noah, I meant to say. So you're going to have parallels with Noah over here. You're also going to have parallels with Noah over here in the Epic of Gilgamesh. But Noah ain't going around with his buddy the king, or with his buddy the wildling, and he's not the king of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, sorry. He's not the king of I think it's Babylon. He's not the king of Babylon going around, or the king of Ur going around having adventures. He's, he's not doing that. So it's important to understand that while there are parallels, they're not direct copies of narratives. The narrative is different. The conclusions are different. The parallels are there, but they're different. So when people call Genesis literal, kind of misses the point of the polemic, because the point is to argue against these conclusions, these other ideologies. So it's arguing against the consensus of the day. So that you got to understand that these other cultures are much bigger than the Israeli culture, much bigger than the Hebrew culture, and the Hebrew culture needs to push against it to keep their identity. So the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, are all about keeping the identity of the Jewish people. It's the preservation of an identity of a cultural group, and it is also the defining of that group. So it's creating an ethnicity. It's creating what we will later call a religion, but isn't called a religion at that point. So there's a lot of anachronism going on in the study of these things. That's unpreventable. It's just going to be there. And I'm mentioning all of this because it's important to understand that just because this has parallels to Noah doesn't mean this is Noah's story. Just because there's one parallel to Noah doesn't mean this is Noah's story. Just because there are parallels to Genesis doesn't mean this is the Genesis story. Just because there are parallels to Genesis doesn't mean that's the Genesis story. There are parallels. There are interesting additions. There's like, hey, why is the hero from this? Why is the hero from this one the villain over here? Why is this statement directly the opposite of what's the statement over here? That kind of stuff. That's really interesting. And so, yeah, you can see some copying of text within text, but the rest of it is original. It's a writer's invention. And that's okay. It's okay for it to have literary tropes and literary drawbacks to other stories and literary callbacks to other stories. That's all okay. That doesn't make it a false religion. You're not being a Billy Carson when you do an origin. Oops. You're not being a Billy Carson when you do an origin. Okay? Origin believes in God. Okay? He believes in Christ. Tertullian believes in Christ. Tertullian does later become a heretic, but that's a different story. So I'm saying that to warn the audience, don't fall for the Billy Carsons. Don't fall for, what's that other guy's name? He's an anti-Catholic dude. There he is. So don't be a Billy Carson. Don't be a Mike Gendry. These people are liars. Now, I don't have a doctorate degree. Okay, I don't. I don't even have a bachelor's degree. I have an associate's in arts. I have a humanities degree. I've been reading all of this stuff since I was 15. And I started with the Epic of Gilgamesh. I don't know if it was this version. I probably lost the version that I had. And I went from there to the Iliad and the Odyssey and Hesiod's working days and theogony, and I just went on from there, and I went my way up all the way to the Bible, to the modern times of the Bible, and that's what I did. And then from there, I just kept reading, and then I discovered the church fathers, and I kept reading, and I've been reading all this stuff for many, many years. And I'm still not an expert. I have read through the Bible front to back 7 times, and there are still times that someone will say something, and I'm like, that's in the Bible. I currently, since becoming a Catholic 11 years ago, read the Bible almost daily. And I said almost because I don't always pray, but I pray through the Bible. I do the Missal, the daily Missal, the Sunday Missal, the daily Missal. I do the Liturgy of the Hours. These are all prayers that include the Psalms. I pray the Psalms, and I guess called the psalmody, but I pray the Psalms, sing the Psalms actually, chant the Psalms. I guess might be the right term. I read the Church Fathers, and I've been reading the Church Fathers for over 7 years. This is all important stuff to me, and I hope to one day get a degree in this stuff or in a related field. But Billy Carson could be easily countered by someone who has only read the Bible. And I don't mean in the original languages. Okay? Yes, I got the Greek, the Koine Greek. Yes, I got the Hebrew. Yes, I got a few books on how to read Greek and Hebrew. But I'm not using that for my daily Bible study. I'm using the Missal. I'm using the Liturgy of the Hours. I'm using prayer books. I'm using the Bible. There are still times that you need to go back and reference the Bible, just raw, just as the words are, even in English, even in a translation. Not a paraphrase, but a translation. You need a translation, not a paraphrase, not a compendium, not a composite Bible. You need the actual text translated for you. And you need at least, I would say, 3 translations. You want at least 3 different perspectives on any given verse. So that way you can see how different people translate a work. And you don't need to spend money. You just get 3 cheap paperback Bibles. That's all you need. If all you want to do is study God's Word, just maybe even just 2 Bibles, 2 real translations. I recommend the NAB and the NRSV. And it's the NRSV UE, that's fine. That's enough. If you want the ESV, and let's say the New Jerusalem Bible, that's fine. It works, okay? Not the King James, not the New King James. I don't like either of those translations because the language is too archaic. The false friends in the wording makes it hard for you to understand what it's saying because it's not using conventional modern English. And the King James is using a heightened form of the English used in their day, so it's not even in the common English that would have been used. So it leads to a lot of confusion for many, many people. So I would use a modern translation personally, but you don't have to. And if you can speak Greek or Hebrew, then go get it in the Greek or Hebrew, or go get it in the Aramaic. Like, I mean, what are you doing? Just go. But that's my warning. Don't fall for charlatans. Don't fall for liars. If they're talking about space aliens, if they're talking about, get rich today, if they're promising you wealth, none of that's in the Bible. That's not biblical. Okay? The Bible's not a magic handbook, and God is not a genie. So get over it. We're talking about the history of a people here, the Jewish people, and their understanding of their relationship to God. And we need to keep it in that context if we're going to try to relate those stories to our lives today. We have to understand what it was originally saying to understand how to apply it to ourselves today. And that's true for any text, whether you're reading a book of fiction or you're reading a historical account of, I don't know, Thucydides, if you're reading the Peloponnesian War, if you're reading The Conquest of Gaul by Julius Caesar, if you're reading the life of Alexander the Great, when you're trying to put the events and advice in these books into your life. You need to understand the original context before you can even try to parallel it. I'm running out of words. Before you can try to build a parallel between yourself and this great person. Because as much as you want to think you are, you're not an ancient war hero. You're a modern person watching YouTube in a very nice air conditioned house. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Sorry about the squeaky chair. I need to probably adjust where I'm sitting. I'm probably not going to edit this. I'm just going to put this out as it is, which means you're going to get all the flubs and you're going to get all the weird sounds. It's fine. I love you all. Thank you all for watching this. It's important that if you're going to talk about the Bible, you need to have at least read the Bible in English. You read it in a translation. If you speak Spanish, read it in Spanish. It doesn't matter. Just read a proper translation of the Bible before you go and talk about it. And if you're going to talk on a scholarly level, you need to do some research. You need to get through some study Bibles and understand what the current consensus of scholarship is before you go blasting opinions, because you don't know what you're talking about. And if you're going to talk about the books that influence the Bible, then you need to have actually read them. Otherwise, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're going to look like a fool. That's it. That's my message. I love you all. Have a great night. Bye.